Rauhoitu. Mikä paikkakunta?
Ulvila.
Ulvila, joo.
Pesti.
Joo, laitan up. Onko teillä monta siellä?
Meillä on myös 4 lasta täällä.
4 lasta?
Kyllä.
That is the voice of Anneli Auer, calling the emergency services at 2:43 in the morning. Her husband had already been stabbed more than 80 times. What you are about to hear is a case built almost entirely on 4 minutes and 53 seconds of recorded audio that involved the FBI, contaminated DNA, an undercover officer who spent 7 months pretending to be in love, and 50 police officers who illegally spied on a widow after she was acquitted. And a family, 4 children, who lost their father to a killer that was never caught, and then lost almost everything else besides. Ulvila, 16,000 people, southwestern Finland, flat terrain, birch forests, a river. The kind of quiet Finnish municipality that exists completely outside the news. Until a December night in 2006, when something happened inside a house here that Finland has never been able to explain. Jukka Lahti's killer has never been found, and somewhere they are still out there. Before we go to that night, I need you to know who Jukka Lahti was. Jukka S. Lahti was 51 years old, born in 1955, a trained social psychologist. He lived with his wife, Anneli Auer, and their 4 children in the family home in Ulvila. He had worked as an HR director at a Finnish company that went through significant restructuring. Large numbers of people were made redundant. That professional history becomes the first theory police pursue after his death, a revenge killing. Someone he let go, someone who carried that wound for years and came to collect on a December night. Jukka Lahti would have been 70 years old today. At 2:43 in the morning on December 1st, 2006, a call connects to the Finnish emergency services. The caller is Anneli Auer. She is calling from the family home in Ulvila. Her first words, "There is someone here, a killer, come quickly." Over the next 4 minutes and 53 seconds, she describes what she says happened. A masked man. He came in. He attacked Jukka. He fled. She screams at Jukka. She says she is screaming, "Älä kuole," don't die. That recording, 4 minutes and 53 seconds, will become the most analyzed, most argued over piece of audio in Finnish legal history. But before the analysis, before the theories, before the courtrooms, police and paramedics arrive at the house, and what they find inside will never leave anyone who hears it. What you are looking at is the floor plan of the family home. The room marked here, the washroom. That is where Jukka Lahti is found. Jukka Lahti is on the floor. He has been stabbed more than 80 times. He has been struck repeatedly in the head and face with a blunt object. He does not survive. The crime scene is not the scene of a robbery. It is not a burglary interrupted. What is documented in that house is evidence of prolonged, close-range, targeted violence. At least 2 weapons were used. Beside Jukka's body, a bloody Fiskars knife, and a piece of firewood, also bloodied. At the bed nearby, a second piece of firewood, with DNA from Jukka and from someone else entirely. And then there is what the photographs show. Blood footprints on the floor of the house and outside on the terrace. The direction of those prints toward the exit. On the window frame, bloody prints made with a glove. On the bed, a single black glove. This is where the dispute begins. Crime scene investigator Matti Mäkinen, the first forensic professional on scene, testifies definitively that the window was broken from the outside. The glass shards were found both inside the room and outside on the terrace. Both. That is consistent with a break-in. The Finnish police filmed a reconstruction showing how a person could enter and exit through that window. You are watching that footage now. And years later, the police in Pori issued a different assessment. They said the window was broken from inside. The same window, the same glass shards, two completely contradictory official conclusions. And then there are the fibers. Brown synthetic fibers, many of them found across the crime scene. On the window frame, on the terrace, on Jukka's body. Police spent years trying to determine where they came from. They could not. What they did confirm, those fibers were not found on the red shirt Anneli Auer was wearing that night. That shirt, photographed, bagged, and presented in court, is the garment you are looking at now. Someone brought those fibers into that house. Anneli Auer has also been wounded. Not just her hands, she has a stab wound to her chest. According to Auer, the intruder stabbed her there as she tried to intervene. According to the prosecution, the wound came from Lahti himself during a struggle that preceded the murder. Both sides agreed the wound was real. They just disagreed on who put it there. There is one more detail about the scene that demands attention, and that the courts themselves addressed. Police arrived within minutes of the emergency call ending. The prosecution's theory required Anneli Auer to have committed the murder, staged the scene, arranged the physical evidence, wounded herself, and composed herself, all before the first officers came through the door. The Court of Appeal, in its acquittal, addressed this directly. In the court's assessment, there was simply not enough time. The window between the call ending and police arriving was too narrow for the staging the prosecution described to have occurred. That is not a defense argument. That is a court ruling. The investigation's first working theory is straightforward. Jukka Lahti was an HR director who oversaw large-scale redundancies. There are hundreds of people with a documented reason to hold a grudge. The unknown male DNA at the crime scene appears to confirm an outside perpetrator. The investigation points outward. In the spring of 2008, 18 months after the murder, police carry out a mass DNA screening. Hundreds of former employees. Every sample tested against the crime scene DNA. Not a single match. In August 2008, a new chief investigator takes over, and the focus of the investigation shifts completely. Away from the revenge theory, away from the outside perpetrator, toward Anneli Auer, and toward the recording. Investigators examine her personal computer. What they find stops them cold. Hundreds of sound clips stored on her hard drive. At the 2013 trial, NBI's sound expert Tuija Niemi would testify that the differences in audio levels on the emergency call suggested that some of the sounds had been pre-recorded and played back during the live call. She told the court, Auer knows how to record and edit her recordings. The defense dismissed this as biased interpretation, but the hundreds of audio files on that computer would never be explained away. The investigators also take an extraordinary step. They submit the tape to the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation in the United States, to analyze a Finnish emergency call. The FBI examines the recording. Their conclusion: the sounds are authentic. The tape has not been tampered with, and an unidentified person can be heard in the background. The FBI says the tape is real. In April 2009, the NBI authorizes an undercover operation. A police officer, operating as Seppo Mäkelä, approaches Anneli Auer. They begin a relationship. He meets her children. He enters her home. For 7 to 8 months, he lives inside her life. Her phone is tapped. Her home is surveilled. The result, in the NBI's own words, neither inculpatory nor exculpatory evidence. Nothing. 7 months of deception, complete silence. Anneli Auer discovered that Seppo Mäkelä was a police officer when a lawyer told her in a courtroom. On September 28, 2009, Anneli Auer is arrested. The official police theory: she had already killed Jukka before she picked up the phone. The 4 minutes and 53 seconds of that call were a performance, a staged alibi constructed in real time while her husband lay dying, or already dead, on the floor. That theory will go to court, twice. Their case rests almost entirely on a single piece of audio.
Älä ketään. Hei, onks siellä joku? Tulkaa äkkiä, mun iskä voi huonosti. Tulkaa äkkiä. Iskä, älä kuole.
The prosecution claims that Anneli Auer's voice can be heard in 2 separate places on the recording at the same time. On the phone, speaking to the operator, and in the room, near her husband's body. Simultaneously. If that is true, it is physically impossible in real time. One of those voices, they argue, was recorded in advance, played back during the call while she staged the scene. And then, the word. Auer says she was screaming at her dying husband, "Älä kuole." Don't die. The prosecution's audio analysis says otherwise. What she actually said, according to their experts, was kuole, die. One word, one syllable difference between a wife screaming for her husband to survive and a killer telling him to finish dying. The defense brought their own audio experts. Same recording, same 4 minutes and 53 seconds. Opposite conclusion. No pre-recording, no tampering, and an unidentified person audible in the background. And the FBI, who analyzed this tape a year before the arrest, said the sounds were genuine, untampered, authentic. 3 analyses, 2 of them saying the tape is real, 1 saying it was fabricated. The Finnish courts had to decide which version of reality to believe. And the DNA. The unknown male DNA from the crime scene. The sample that did not match any of the hundreds of former employees. The evidence that pointed for years toward an outside killer in that house. In the summer of 2013, 7 years after the murder, the truth comes out. The DNA belongs to a crime lab examiner. It was contaminated during analysis. 7 years, hundreds of DNA tests, and the key piece of physical evidence pointing to an outside killer introduced to the scene by the forensic laboratory itself. One final detail from this chapter. After Auer was acquitted, after the Supreme Court closed the file, it was revealed that more than 50 Finnish police officers had illegally accessed her personal records in the national database. Not for the investigation, out of personal curiosity. The Helsinki District Court confirmed in 2016 they had no legal right to do so. Most received fines. 50 police officers spying on an acquitted woman. November 2010. The Satakunta District Court finds Anneli Auer guilty. 2-1. A life sentence. July 2011. The Vasa Court of Appeal acquits her. Unanimously. 3-0. October 2012. The Supreme Court sends the case back for a new trial. December 2013. The District Court convicts her again. 2-1. Another life sentence. In the same year, the DNA contamination becomes public. February 2015. The Court of Appeal overturns it again. 2-1. Pre-recording theory unproven. Outside perpetrator cannot be excluded. December 2015. The Supreme Court closes the murder case permanently. Anneli Auer spent more than 600 days in prison. She was awarded 500,000 euros in compensation. 800 euros per day. The largest wrongful imprisonment payout in the history of Finnish law. And then there is the second chapter. After the murder, Auer's children were taken into foster care. In 2011, they gave statements to investigators. They said their mother had sexually abused them, repeatedly, between 2007 and 2009. The Turku Court of Appeal convicted Anneli Auer of 12 crimes. 2 counts of aggravated rape, multiple counts of aggravated child sexual abuse. Sentenced to 7.5 years. Her then partner Jens Kukka received 10 years. Both served their sentences. Those are devastating convictions, and for years they were accepted as part of the story of who Anneli Auer was. But then, in 2023, the children retracted. They told investigators they had not told the truth. They said the testimonies had been given under pressure, that they had been influenced, persuaded, coached by the foster parents who raised them after their father's death. In December 2024, the same month the NBI reopened the murder investigation, the Supreme Court of Finland annulled the sexual abuse conviction and ordered a full retrial. In 2025, the Varsinais-Suomi District Court cleared Anneli Auer and her co-accused of all 18 charges, every single one. The court found that the original testimonies, given in 2011 by children in foster care with limited contact with their family, could not be considered reliable. A woman wrongfully imprisoned for her husband's murder, then convicted of abusing her own children, then cleared of that too. And the children at the center of all of it, who lost their father to an unidentified killer in 2006, who were separated from their mother, who grew up in foster care, end up retracting the very statements that put her in prison a second time. There is no version of this story that is not a tragedy. And through all of it, through 18 years of trials, acquittals, wrongful convictions, and legal disasters, Jukka Lahti's murder remains unsolved. On December 26, 2024, Finland's National Bureau of Investigation officially transferred the Ulvila homicide case to the NBI. Chief Inspector Olli Toires leads the investigation. He describes the case files as vast enough to fill a car. His 4-word statement on where the investigation stands: all possibilities are open. Someone brought a knife and a piece of firewood into that house on November 30th, 2006. Someone left brown fibers on the window frame and footprints in the blood on the terrace. Someone stabbed Jukka Lahti more than 80 times, and they have never been found. If you have information about the murder of Jukka Lahti, contact Finland's National Bureau of Investigation at poliisi.fi or call 112. All sources are in the description.